Today I'm going through every new unit added in the Part 2 Easter event and deciding if they're actually worth using. Going from lowest rarity to highest rarity, let's start with the Chocopuddle Petal. Alright, so this unit you place down for an initial cost of 450 doing 10 DPS. It is automatically shooting out this Chocopuddle that I will talk about in a second. With all 5 of these placed down and max upgraded, it is doing a total of 505 DPS single target. Now if we compare that to other common units, it's not too good. There's a lot of units that end up doing more DPS than that. But yeah, the main reason why this unit is quite good for its rarity at the end of the day, due to its passive where it leaves a chocolate puddle on the track, turning enemies permanently into chocolate, increasing damage to enemies from all units by 10%. And if I just send out a group of, let's say, spiders, just like so, let me put it on 3x, you can see what's happening. It leaves a puddle of chocolate that does not look like chocolate, I'm sorry, and any enemy that walks through this gets a permanent 10% debuff of turning into the chocolate. Now the puddle you see here, it has a 20-second cooldown of where it is placed, and all 5 of them sync up to create one singular puddle here. If you have all of your Chocopuddle petals on first, it will have the puddle all the way up here, which isn't beneficial because look at the amount of time where things aren't being debuffed, right? So if I just put all of these on last, just like so, and then we speed it up again, eventually right there after 20 seconds it'll spawn a Chocopuddle right here in the back, and it will stay here, which is actually more efficient in the long run because you want it to be debuffed from your other units. Now using the strategy of keeping all of them on last, this is quite good, I can't lie. Probably the best unit in its rarity because of the use that it has here. Very nice unit. It's actually more efficient in my opinion at debuffing really big crowds than the Chocoflower, which is supposed to be a higher rarity. Definitely not bad if you're a beginner. You know, pick it up, put it on last, call it a day. Moving on to the next unit, we have the Speed Shoot. Now this unit does 200 full AoE DPS, max placement of 1, 27 range, so that's not that bad. If you look here on the left, you see it has a 8 to 16% speed increase for other units that are in the range of the plant. Now what this 16% speed increase means is that if I have a egg Basketstem down, for example, max upgraded, and I'm just clicking on it the whole time, you can see that it's providing a 16% speed boost for 2 seconds on and 2 seconds off, giving it an average speed boost of 8% overall, which is again really decent for only being a 2-star unit. The additional full AoE damage is also quite nice. If you compare that to a lot of the other units in that rarity, you know, it's slim pickings out here, that's for sure. The Speed Shoot, definitely good thing to pick up if you don't have the sprinkler for any reason. Moving on to the next unit, we have the Hot Cross Bunesia. Now this thing is called Bunesia for a good reason, because it's straight buns, but other than that, let's just get into the stats. Even though this doesn't tell you how much DPS it actually does, overall, if you have the enemy sitting in the Hot Cross Bunesia, it goes from 110 DPS on its first upgrade to 1540 DPS on its max upgrade. Now this will literally never happen unless you're time stopping on the Bunesia, because it has to stack up the fire damage that it has. If you're looking at it, only 5 attack and then upgrading it only 20 attack, it's just depending on the fire damage that it's doing every 0.6 seconds. Now apart from the superficial DPS that it will never actually do, if I just place all 5 of these down and I max upgrade it, I send out an enemy that has, let's say, let me give this guy 10 speed, right? Send him out, you'll see that everything will hit it one time, right? Just like so. And then overall, after a long period of time, it really stays on fire for a long time. It does 4,600 damage. Now the fact that it did 4,600 damage with all 5 of these placed down is quite bad, but what it's showing you is that if it only attacks one time, each of these Bunesias are still doing 920 damage in total per trap. The Bunesia isn't AoE at all. You look at the very end, it ends up only being 4.6k across all those 3 enemies. So, you know, single target mess, really hard to gauge the actual DPS. The 40% slow that you see here basically adds on every single time for 1 second whenever the trap attacks. You can see, you know, it gets hit a little bit. It has a 1 second 40% slow, and it goes right back to normal. So it's not providing crazy value. I could see it being decent on some maps, especially if the interval is high enough for it to hit every single enemy properly. You could space these out even a little bit more if you wanted to. I don't know what the maximum efficiency would be because it really depends on the speed of the enemy. Overall, this unit's buns. It's in its title. Moving on to the Eggfectius Vine. This is a very interesting unit because at first glance, it probably looks completely broken, but it has a lot of different things behind it that makes it not so good. So what you're seeing here is it's doing over 920 DPS, and if you're wondering why, it's because it's applying an additional Infectia attack, or it does 160 damage every 3 seconds, providing an additional 53.3 DPS, giving it a total of 973.3 DPS for this one placement. The difference is that if I have all 5 of these placed down and I max upgrade them all, just like how the Infectia works, it's not providing an additional toxic attack. So at the end of the day, this unit is doing a total of 4,653.3 DPS in total, with 4,600 of that being completely single target. And then after everything is out of the range, it's only taking that 160 every 3 seconds, which is quite bad. I think the saving grace of this unit is the fact that it's a legendary and it still does some decent single target DPS. It's probably the highest. It's actually good cost efficiency if you're just placing a single one of them down. The Infectia attack adds so much value and you only need to have one for it to be at maximum efficiency. Moving on to the Petaladox, this unit is quite terrible. It is 15,034 DPS in total, single target, with 2 placement max upgraded. If you look in the description, it fires 8 beams concurrently, targeting up to 8 enemies at once, ability to stop time, pausing enemy progress. Now the 8 beams firing concurrently does not work like Ice Prism, unfortunately. It is just splitting up its damage across these 8 enemies, practically just doing a little bit under 1,025 DPS to every single individual enemy, and then the total of 7,517 per. There's really nothing special about it. I don't like these units that split up their DPS like this. It could have easily made this thing meta. Imagine if it did 15,000 total damage to every single enemy in here that was getting hit. That would be so broken and just nice to have in the game. Like, I don't mind having broken units. We have way too many at this point. It also has the additional time stop here on the right, which basically, once I pop it, it stops time for 1.5 seconds. And then it has a 2-minute recharge, and you can technically get 2 of these abilities out if you have both of these placed down. It's still, you know, 2 times worse than a regular time stop just because the cooldown is quite long, but the fact that it adds that on top of being a decent single target DPS, it's like the saving grace for it, right? I probably won't be using it in Endless, but I don't know, it might be able to work. I'm not too sure about it. I don't really think it's too special. Moving on to the Eggsnare Sprout. This is probably the most useful and meta unit in this update. In my opinion, it is a really good stun. If you look at the DPS, that's only doing 618 in total single target. That's not the reason why you're using it. If you look at what it's doing to this DPS dummy, you can see it's basically stalling it for 2 seconds, and then it has a single hit in between where it's not getting hit, and then it hits again. But right now, in this situation, it's doing a 2-second stun every 3.24 seconds. If you have a timekeeper down, it does get a little bit messy when you think about the total SPM. Using it with the timekeeper on a single boss, you can see it does work a little bit weird. So it basically has 2 hits in between where it's not stunning, which actually gives it a higher stall cooldown overall. So it's less efficient to use it with timekeeper on singular bosses. But as soon as you add 2 bosses into the equation, which is literally every situation, it ends up being completely fine to use it with the timekeeper, literally stunning it every other time. And if I'm doing a big crowd, it's also pretty amazing at what it can do. One of the most important factors about this unit, which also is the reason why it's going to be meta, is the fact that it works really well with the Confusion Flora. So if I send out the same enemies once again, you can just see how well it's going to be working together. The stun isn't blocking the Confusion Flora, and the Confusion Flora isn't blocking the stun, and it's just like having a better stun flower, really. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't want to take this unit with you. Moving on to the Egg Basketstem. This is another unit that I think is going to be partially meta, mainly because of the slow that it has. It's pretty nice. So if I just place some more DPS dummies down, you can see that all of its DPS here is 8 AoE every single attack that it does. With 2 of these placed down and max upgraded, you're doing a total of 15,300 DPS, 8 AoE, and providing a 40% slow in the 8 AoE on top of that. So if I just send out some snails once again, let me send out like 20 of these guys, you can see how much the slow is helping. It is grouping enemies up quite perfectly right there. That would work amazing with the Confusion Flora. And in my opinion, it provides just as much value as an Orangi. It is slowing the whole time for 40%. An Orangi is literally 40% but electric, so it's only 6 AoE. And just like that, it gets out of the range. You know, it's really good. It's just the exact same as an Orangi, and it just adds so much nice DPS on top of that. The only difference I can say is since you can only place 2 of these egg basket stems down, you can't change the targeting the same way you can do it on the Orangi. Usually with the Orangi and Endless, you want to have one on first, one on central, one on strongest, one on last, or something in that variation. With this, you could only really do like strongest and first, in my opinion. That's like the only negative thing I can say about it. It's just a better reskinned version of the Elemental Bloom. Literally everything that Elemental Bloom couldn't be. I really like the design of the unit, honestly. It looks kind of clean. Moving on to the final unit, we have the Bunny Mech. Now, this thing is not as special. It does the 16,875 DPS single target that it says it does with 1 placement. It has a special ability to release an energy blast dealing 50 times damage to all enemies within range. That kind of sounds broken at the start, but what it's basically implying is that this 2,250 damage you see here is being multiplied by 50 in a single attack, and then it's hitting anything that is in that range. I'm charging it up right now. It has a charge up of 80 seconds. Let me send some enemies out right now and get them all in the range, just like so. And then once they're like out and about, pop it right there. 112,500 damage to every single enemy in the range. If you're adding the ability damage you can do on top of the regular DPS, this technically does 18,281 total DPS. Even though it is quite nice having all that full AoE, I don't think it's going to ever be used. Having to pop abilities is bad. It's not the most full AoE damage that you could get. Alright, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to test all these units in a game mode of Toxic Facility Impossible. Literally like my favorite map. I actually wish they had a higher difficulty on Toxic specifically just for me. I'd really appreciate that. I'm trying to think what's the uninteresting unit, but then I was realizing to myself I probably will need to start with Chocopuddle Petal. I would need to go into Eggfectius Vine 100%. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do this. I think what I will do is I will get rid of the hot Cross Bunesia and I will add a basket in here. Alright, I just did a few games for a little warm up, but I think I know how I'm going to do this now. 1 Choco Flower here. Right? Boom, boom, boom. Turn auto skip back on. Wait for it to do some extra damage there. Right there, right there, right there. Okay, as soon as we have enough money, sell this. Instantly go into an Eggfectius Vine. Perfect. And then keep auto skip on. Oh yeah, I gotta put this on strongest as well. Wait, watch this, watch this. Eggfectius carries, bro, like insane. And then put one up here, perfect range. I'll also put that thing on strongest as well. And now we're chilling and we're like set up, I think. Like the Eggfectius is super good cost efficiency for the first level. It is honestly insane how it works. And then I think I'll have a Chocopuddle flower at the front, keep it on last, instantly put a puddle down. I should probably do, I could go straight into one of these, go into an egg, going to one of these. I also need to deal with these guys. They got by, I didn't even realize. What should I place down? This maybe? That is awesome way to start. I can't lie. That was really fun and super easy. And these units, oh my gosh. I mean, like it gave you a taste of everything. It gave you a debuffer. It gave you a slow. It gave you a stall. It gave you an infectia damage. It gave you a time stop, an ability, a speed up. Like it really has a lot of good variety. I can't lie. I actually want to get to the final wave and just see how well the Bunny Mech can handle it. The Bunny Mech has really crazy costs. I just realized 35,000 for the 3rd upgrade. All right, wait for everything to get in the range. Pop the ability. Oh, that was really nice. I can't lie. Get all the way down there. Get right down here. Add a slow. So the bunny can solo like crazy and then just finish it off right here. Yeah, the bunny's nice. The bunny's definitely nice for that final wave. These are good units. Like it was easy to start. They're very unique. It's giving you a little taste of everything. All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for the video. These units are actually a little bit better than I expected. I will see you guys in the next one.